Hello and welcome to the Dissident Mama podcast. Today, my guest is Kaleb of Atlanta. Kaleb, also known by his online moniker, Patriarch Prime, is an Orthodox Christian, a writer, and a prominent Twitter provocateur who has recently landed right in the woke crosshairs. Kaleb says his intent is to spread the Orthodox faith to African Americans, but the straightforward, bold evangelism of this maker of many radicals crosses all racial lines and is just way too effective for the left-wing subversives. Welcome, Kaleb. How are you doing?
Good morning. It's nice speaking with you. I'm excited for what we have planned today.
All right, well, let's just dive right in. So for those of y'all who are listening who don't know about him, Kaleb posts lots of Orthodox stuff, lives of the saints, prayers of the hours, sometimes some heated debates with Protestants and agnostics and atheists and Catholics, but he also sometimes posts things that I believe are meant to evoke and to prod. So here are a few examples that we can talk about. So recently, you said, my lawyers have informed me that kidnapping people to make them become Orthodox is technically illegal, right? Awesome. Democracy shall be defeated. Some person had said how Eastern Orthodoxy is stuck in the 8th century. And you said, what an insult. How could you say that? We're stuck in the 1st, et cetera, et cetera. So Kaleb likes to poke and prod, which I think is very effective at getting at the people who need the poking and the prodding. So you have recently come in the crosshairs, like we were saying, of the left-wing subversives, some within Orthodoxy, so we think, some without. So can you tell us about this tweet heard around the Orthosphere? I think you posted it on May 7th, what you said and why it freaked so many people out that really need a good freaking out.
So the ban tweet, yes. That one was after we heard the draft opinion that Roe v. Wade might be overturned. And obviously that doesn't exactly mean that abortion will be banned everywhere, right? But it will initiate bans in a number of states that have trigger laws. So naturally, I just wanted to make it clear about what Christianity opposes, what the plan is, eventually what we're going to be leading up to. So I said, of course, next we ban gay marriage, next we ban divorce, next we ban Plan B, condoms, adultery, fornication. And really that was just meant to be a throwaway tweet. It wasn't supposed to be this thing that got big. It was just supposed to be me and my followers having fun. And it got quite a few interactions. So many, in fact, that the SPLC or some workers at the SPLC had taken note of it, and they were tweeting it out to their followers saying that, oh, look at these evil Christians, look at what they're doing, they want to control our bodies, and so on. And, of course, it's just them being hysterical. But someone replied saying, oh, now you know that the SPLC is going to go after you and try to dox you and ruin your life. And another member of the SPLC replied with, yep, that's the plan, with a little funny gif saying, yep, we're going, that's what we're doing. And so now I have to be on my toes. I don't know if they're being serious, but you can't trust them to be joking, because they have doxed people in the past before. And I'm not really, excited about being doxed for making a funny joke on twitter.com. But, just gotta go with the flow, gotta go with what the world throws at you.
So you don't seem too scared, because unless you just don't live in Atlanta, we know you live in Atlanta, we know that your Orthodox name is Kaleb, and obviously we can see a picture of you. So are you scared of the dox, or are you just kind of like gonna embrace it if and when it happens? Are you thinking about getting ahead of it? Do you care at all?
Well, I mean, I do care a little bit because I've seen to the extent at which doxes have gone. I've seen people have been doxxed and their families have been called, or people have gone to their parents' houses. And obviously I don't want people going to my parents' house. They don't even agree with me on most things, not religion, not politics. I don't want my parents being called. I don't want my phone number getting out.
Right.
I don't want them contacting my school or anyone connected to me. If I do get doxxed and let's say they just drop my address or something, it's like I'm not too worried. I don't think anyone's coming to my address. And most of the time I'm not even living at my own home. So it's really just a wonder of how much they're actually going to affect me, because I'm under contracts that can't really be taken apart if they decided to contact my work. Um, they're, they can call the people in charge of me and say, oh, he's this thing, he's that thing, he's trying to control women, he's racist, blah, blah, blah. None of it which is actually true. And regardless, like, it's not like I'm going to be fired.
Good.
So I'm not extremely worried, but I know it might be a hassle if push comes to shove.
Well, that's good, kind of getting your ducks in a row and making yourself a little bit bulletproof, because I believe it was Hannah Gase, however you say her last name. She, she's SPL infamy. She, deems herself an expert on Russian Orthodoxy, and I think she went to Harvard Div. So I think she was the one who kind of freaked out and said, you're basically like a weird incel gamer. And that basically, these heterosexual guys brag about, not having sex because you commented to your awesome tweet that said, and then next we ban sex. Of course, right. Oh, that to me, I was like, I already thought you were cool. And then I was like, boom, there goes the dynamite, So yeah, they don't know how to take a joke. They understand that, yes, there's probably lots of grains of truth within that statement if you want to parse that out, but that they just can't take a joke at all. And it is funny that that's the one you post a lot of really extreme things that I find are just right on par, 100% truth. But I know that, on Twitter that, gets people's panties in a wad. So what would you say to that tweet? Do you want to ban all these things? Any clarifications, or just take it for what it was?
Well, I mean, obviously banning gay marriage, contraception, adultery, fornication, all of those should happen. Divorce is kind of more nuanced. We would ban no fault divorce, since that's led to a lot of social problems in our country. But unfortunately, you can't ban all divorce out of practical reasons.
Yeah.
And of course, can't really ban sex.
Right.
I'm sure we could try, but eventually our country's gonna fall apart if we try that. So I guess she did think I was an incel. Personally, I hate people being called incel.
Yeah, me too.
Because the presumption behind that insult is that sex is like having frequent amounts of sex is a good thing. But it's not an inherently good thing. It's just, if you're married, of course it's good for that marriage, but like, I'm not married, so why should I be going around having sex? It's not like I'm trying to get laid. It's not like I'm trying to prove to everyone, oh guys, I'm so straight. Like, I don't care. I'm in a relationship. I love my girlfriend. I don't know why they're so obsessed with sex. And at the end of the day, they always resort to insulting you on the basis of how much sex you have, which I think is pretty interesting. It was like half of her tweet was like, oh, these guys. And then she talked about how I'm not going to join a monastery. Well, I don't want to join a monastery. And she thinks I'm obsessed with video games when I rarely play them. So I don't know what their why they presume to know so much about people. And of course, again, the tweet was kind of just joking, me and my buddies online. But if you didn't know someone, you wouldn't know if they're just joking between their friends or if they're being serious. But they didn't bother to try asking.
Right.
I mean, some people did ask under that tweet, do you really want to ban divorce? Because I
Yeah.
know that the Orthodox Church allows divorce, and I clarified, just no fault divorce. But these people, SPLC, they're looking to bring us down, so they don't ask clarifying questions. They want you to be the worst of the worst, so they can just insult you to your audience. And her tweet against me didn't even approach the amount of likes I had on my tweet.
Right.
I actually ratioed her because I quote tweeted her saying, "Incelism isn't real, sex isn't a virtue, and you're so obsessed with my sex life. I wonder why." And I got like twice as many likes on that tweet as she did. So I think they're kind of worried that their audience is going in the toilet and they're looking for any media to invoke some clicks on their websites.
And I agree. And I love the fact that you don't play on the defensive. I think that freaks them out because so many good people even do that. You know, they give all these disclaimers before they try to make their point. You don't do that. And I think the tweets that you share really hold a mirror up to them. Like you were saying, it said way more about her than it said about you, and that you engage people and, you know, they just end up blocking you or, you know, calling you a jerk or whatever because you ask them questions. And I think that's something very refreshing and why you have a pretty dedicated following because yeah, you're not playing on their field, and that's a smart move.
Yeah, they you know, it's something that is commonly seen. People are wanting to clarify now. Now, I don't support the war in Russia, but I think you need to understand what Putin, like you didn't need to start with that.
Right.
You didn't need to start with that. You could have just explained your point. And if anyone's being charitable, they're not going to assume anything about your beliefs. And you know, I see a lot of common mainstream writers who are also Orthodox, such as Rod Dreher, and sometimes they make good points, but a lot of the times they're just conceding to the mob.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course I'm not racist. It's like you don't have to explain that you're not racist. If you're not racist, you're not racist.
Right.
If you don't want to control women, you don't have to tweet, "I don't want to control women." It's like people who know you. And people who are not trying to be evil don't assume about you. We really need to just let our yeses be yeses and let our noes be noes, as the Lord says.
Well, I agree. And I think that's, I mean, your strategy, whether you're thinking it's a strategy or not, if that's just how you are, I think that's smart. And also it's why, you know, they know who you are now and you're totally triggered. And if it makes you feel any better, that chick, Hannah Geis wrote, she writes these articles with this gal named Megan Swire. They're both like online hate experts or whatever. And Megan is who doxed me back in 2020. So, and it's all because I interviewed somebody who was doing a reopen, you know, the anti-lockdown stuff, you know, and remember when that was all white supremacy back in 2020, how if you didn't want to be locked up, you were a white supremacist. So that's what got me doxxed. So yeah, they talk about the networking of the right wingers, but it's classic how this is literally like mostly a bunch of gals running around calling people names. So I'm glad you're triggering them. It's good. So people say, I was radicalized by Patriarch Prime. Okay, right. In your Twitter bio, you say, you know, you're a radicalizer. Well, what does that mean? Tell the people who don't follow you what you mean by that and why you think it does kind of make these gals gnash their teeth.
Yes, of course. Well, that one also started off kind of as a joke. It goes further back than just this. I believe it was in 2020. Some people would say that I'm radicalizing young men or radicalizing teenagers. And I just made a joke of it. Like, yeah, totally. I'm definitely radicalizing people. Why don't my followers put it in their bio, radicalized by Patriarch Prime? And they put it, and some of them did put it in their bios. And it got pretty popular. It wasn't a whole lot of people, but it was a few. And they stuck with it because people aren't constantly checking their bios to update them.
Right.
Um, and some people noticed, specifically it was Sarah Riccardi Schwartz, who she has a long track record of trying to slander the Orthodox Church. She infiltrated Orthodox communities in order to write hit pieces on them for over a year. And she's written a new book, basically trying to accuse young convert men of being racist, white supremacists, and they join Orthodoxy because we're racist. Miss Sarah, she recently did an interview with Fordham University, where she basically said that I was kind of this cultist, and my followers are super dedicated to me, in particular. So they're radicalized by me, and that's code for converting to Orthodoxy. Which none of that makes sense. That's not true. I don't have people with such an independent dedication to me specifically. They're just Orthodox Christians, and we are friends online. So if it is code that they're becoming Orthodox Christian, then glory to God. You know, I hope more people. I hope I radicalize more people, because if it's making them Orthodox Christian, bringing them into the Church of Jesus Christ, that's a good thing. And for everyone else who thinks they're being radicalized, or they're turning more against the world, they're turning more towards Jesus Christ, that's the radicalization that I'm looking for, turning more towards Jesus Christ. So if that's the result, if that's the fruit of my work, then that's what I want. I don't want these people just following me as a cult, because if they're gonna follow me, they should follow what I teach, and I teach Orthodoxy.
Right.
So that's what it means. That's what it means.
Well, to me, it's one of those things where they co-opt a word. When did Christianity not become radical in opposition to this world? Like, when did that occur, right? So they're taking this word radical and extreme and, all the stupid words they steal and then redefine to mean whatever it is they want it to mean in the moment.
Absolutely,
that's ridiculous on one hand, but then also, so you're dealing with them saying he's a radical, he's radicalizing people to the truth. Oh my gosh, gas, gnashing of teeth. But then on the other hand, sometimes you have people who maybe are Cradle Orthodox or consider themselves more radical than you, that are like, some of us were radicalized while you were in diapers, kid. And it's like, your point is to tell people about Jesus, and they're over here getting completely distracted by the word radical, when it's like they're missing the point. Do you ever just look at both sides of this and, want to throw your hands up like, I just need to get off Twitter, or you're like, it just is what it is?
Yeah, for me, I just deal with it day by day. I get new attacks all the time. I've heard many people call me super patient. I've never really understood it, but I guess, this would be kind of draining on a lot of people. It's, if they want to go after me, it is what it is. They can lose their minds trying to attack me. And I'm just going to still be going to church on Sunday. I'm still going to be doing my job, trying to help as many people as possible. So I just let them, leave them to them.
Okay, all of a sudden my Zoom, sorry, this is ridiculous, was giving me a warning, and I don't know why, because typically I can talk to people for as long as possible, as long as it's one person. So if for some reason you stop hearing me ask you questions in 10 minutes, I'll send you another Zoom invite. Sorry about that. I have no idea what's going on. I'm
No problem, no
50.
problem.
I'm 50. I'm barely keeping up with this stuff. Okay, so now as far as these people, you have people saying, oh, he has the shit gimmick account or a shitty LARP and a grift of all things. From everything I know about you, you don't even ask for money. So is that just the new insult for people who are, I don't know, very traditional in what they say online? Is that just another insult? Or I don't know. I mean, the whole LARP thing, I mean, I guess I've kind of used that toward leftists before that are not seeming to be traditional and calling themselves Orthodox. So that is kind of a role playing thing. But I don't know. Do you get that a lot too? Or if you do you just scroll on past?
I do get a lot that I'm a LARPer. I of course I hate being called a LARPer because it's saying that my faith is fake. And if there's really one thing that you're not going to insult me on, it's my dedication to my faith. Of course, these people don't know anything about me. They don't know about my spiritual life. I go to church, I confess, I take communion, I serve in church, I read in church. There's videos of it. So them calling my faith fake is, you know, it's obviously just a lie, but it, that's one of the things that actually kind of does tear me down a little bit. I don't like it. People have called me a grifter. I think it's hard for me to understand what a grifter is. I think it's someone who built up this sort of brand. Of course, they were asking for money along the way, and then they don't try to deliver on what they're promising. So I've heard a lot of people call Nick Fuentes a grifter. I don't know if I agree because I don't know anything about Nick Fuentes. I've heard people call Baked Alaska a grifter. But really, I just don't get it. I'm just trying to do what I can to help as many people as possible. And a gimmick account, yeah, I don't understand that one either. I mean, I ran actual gimmick accounts, and I think people want to see me as just a faceless dude on Twitter, and they don't want to see me as an actual real human person. Not many people DM me asking, what do you really believe? Can you explain this and that? Because I will gladly explain to any amount of people. I've seen people who are obviously leftist and biased people DM me, and I've explained myself there. I've seen right-wingers, I've seen Roman Catholics, a lot of people who hate me, some people who like me. And if they want to know something, I'll gladly speak with them, but they've gotta actually try. They've gotta actually try. Personally, I hate the word LARPer so much that I don't like for anyone to call anyone else a LARPer, because you never know what someone is actually like at home. You never know what someone is actually like in their own faith, in their own practice. I've said, if you're going to accuse anyone of being a LARPer, you should accuse yourself of being a LARPer. No one is a LARPer except for you. It's kind of like, you don't call other people sinners because you're a sinner. Everyone is going through stuff on their own. They should focus on themselves. They shouldn't be looking like crawling out to go condemn someone. Just focus on getting right with the Lord. That's my opinion.
Well, I agree. And of course, that's a very Orthodox perspective. So amen to that. So recently, NPR ran this hit piece called Orthodox Christian Churches Are Drawing in Far Right American Converts. And it was by some gal named Youssef, yet another gal, gnashing of the teeth. And so a lot of people got really upset about it and were writing responses to it, which I think is good. And there were, Dreyer wrote one that was pretty good, minus the disclaimer. A few other people, minus the disclaimers, were pretty good. But Andrew Torba was talking about it, Andrew Torba of Gab, and he was talking about it. And there was also some kind of Atlantic hit piece against traditional evangelicals. And he says, this tells me that we are right over the target and that our ranks are growing. They're getting nervous, and they should be. Is that how you feel or perceive the situation to be when all of a sudden you are in the crosshairs? This guy that was kind of flying under the radar, have about 10,000 followers, but SPLC folks weren't tweeting about how you're a Larper. Is that what you see, like when the heat gets put on, that you feel like something good's happening? Or do you see it as I don't know, fractioning or something? I mean, how do you perceive that? Because it did all happen in 1 week, and then there was like Orthosphere infighting and all this kind of stuff. I mean, what's your take on it? Because you've been at this a long time.
I think it's just another manifestation of attacks against Orthodoxy. Obviously, the world goes by, years go by, and the world's looking for new ways to attack Orthodoxy. Right now, this war in Russia is obviously, no one likes war, but the West is particularly trying to do everything they can to bring down Russia's reputation. And part of that is attacking the Orthodox Church. Mm-hmm. And even though the only churches involved over there is the Russian Orthodox Church, they would like for all Orthodox Christians to be the bad guy. So what they want to do, specifically with ROKOR, the Russian Orthodox Church outside Russia, they want to say, oh, this is another arm of the Kremlin. Mm-hmm. This is, a propaganda station. They're racist. And if you've got some people like me who are dedicated to the faith, and other people on Twitter who are trying, to bring people in, we are just another one of those races that they get to attack. And obviously, it's never good to be in the crosshairs. Of course, we do want to expand Orthodoxy. This is something that's going to happen. If anything, persecution is even good, because our suffering allows us to draw nearer to God. But at the same time, it's not something that we really want to happen so often.
Right.
We know that struggles are on the way. Recently, it was reported that a lot of ROKOR churches are actually being monitored by the FBI. They've said it. They go up to the priests and the priest wives saying, "We're monitoring your church." That's like, what are they monitoring for? Clearly, they're thinking we're some foreign agent of Russia, and we're going to be bringing down the United States or something. I guess that's their idea. Across the whole Western world, ROKOR churches have been attacked and vandalized. And then in Ukraine itself, of course, a lot of schismatics and Roman Catholics are actually attacking the Orthodox Church there, Ukrainian Orthodox Church over there, forcing them to get out of that jurisdiction. They're stealing churches. This is just another wave of persecution against us. And of course, there is the interpretation, which I think it has merit to it, that this is a good thing because it means that we're growing. Mm-hmm. It means that we're getting more influential. It's putting us more in the limelight. I think a lot of people, it does have some merit. I guess I'm just more on the nervous side, because I know that people are really at our throats.
Yeah.
I've seen, the idea that we're bringing in a lot of racists, a lot of white nationalists, a lot of radicals, or so to speak. If that's what we're bringing in, then it's a good thing, because mm-hmm. we should lead all types of people to repentance. Father Barnabas Powell recently tweeted out this morning, I hope more racists join the Orthodox Church so that we can lead them to repentance. And he's absolutely right. That's exactly what we're looking for. It's Satan. He's after us.
All right, Kaleb. So we got so rudely disconnected by the Zoom masters when you were talking about Father Barnabas Powell and how he was saying, people who have struggles with sin, racism, whatever it happens to be, come to the Orthodox Church. It is the hospital. So that's your thinking.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's absolutely, of course. Anyone who's struggling with any sin, listen, it doesn't matter what the sin is. this is a hospital for the soul. The goal here is to bring you to God. If you have an open heart, that's what we're looking for. So all racists come to the Orthodox Church. You know, and the same goes for all homosexuals, prostitutes, transgenders, you know, white supremacists, Nazis, so on and so forth.
But there would have to be repentance and,
of course,
and a change of heart. And so, well, I had been following you for a couple of years, but when you really jumped out at me as, hey, I should maybe look a little bit closer to what this guy is saying, was when you defended the Ludwell Orthodox Fellowship, of which I'm a co-founder. There was a Fordham University hit piece against us, and you basically said, the article's purpose is clear. Name a bunch of people the author doesn't like and accuse them of being far right so that his compatriots put those people on their radar and target them. It's abominable. But something else that you had said within that time frame, and I had actually screenshotted it and put it in one of my essays, was if a right-winger comes to Orthodoxy, Orthodoxy changes him. A left-winger becomes Orthodox and he tries to change Orthodoxy. Why do leftists struggle to leave behind their baggage when converting? Rare to see one of them who isn't actively working to subvert the church. Yes, this does not mean we are saying that this is every person who has been a left-winger. I used to be one as well, a long, long time ago. However, that does seem to be the deal. Do you still stand with that, where, yeah, the pipeline of right-wingers to Orthodoxy? Okay, well, it's because it's traditional. It's because it's unchanging. That's an appealing thing to people of the quote-unquote right. We don't want progress and constant renovationism and changing and reconstruction. We like things that make sense, that are ordered and historical. So that makes sense to me, where, somebody who likes progress wants to see changes. I mean, do you still stick with that? And I know you were saying not to judge people's hearts, but that does seem to be what's happening overwhelmingly over and over and over.
Well, I can only really speak from what I've seen. I've seen leftists who have repented, and I've seen leftists that they come in and they want to change. They want to change Orthodoxy. They want to use Orthodoxy as a means to bring down their personal enemies. Mm-hmm. It's not something that's really uncommon. Of course, not all leftists are even online. We don't know we don't know what's going on in the hearts of so many people. But if you do think back on what is the Orthodox beliefs, what do we actually believe? It's a fact that we oppose gay marriage. It's a fact that we oppose contraception. It's a fact that we oppose abortion. If you already believe those things in the world, then you're quote unquote right wing. And when you come into Orthodoxy, it's not so much that you have to change about your life politically, but a lot of people do come in with their politics thinking, well, Orthodoxy must justify this in some way.
Right.
But it doesn't. So it's just a trend of what I've seen. I don't know. Of course, we still invite everyone to come in. But if you're going to come as you are, you better leave a little differently. That's the idea.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So we've talked about Fordham a couple of times. So can you explain to my non-Orthodox listeners what you think this Fordham University thing is happening? I think they have something called the Orthodox Christian Studies Center. So Sarah Riccardi-Swartz, who we have discussed, that book that Kaleb was talking about is Fordham published. I think Fordham funded, I'm not sure. But anyway, the point is, Fordham has this thing called Public Orthodoxy that is kind of like their propaganda website. So what do you think is the deal with Fordham? Why do they even why does this Jesuit school have an Orthodox Christian Study Center? Like, what's the deal? And is being called a Fordhamite even a bad thing?
Well, Fordham, again, like you said, it is a Jesuit university. This is probably one of the biggest problem because Jesuits have been known to be basically everything bad that's ever talked about Roman Catholicism is typically targeting the actions of Jesuits. They seem to be kind of the loudest evil force of the Roman Catholic Church. A lot of Roman Catholics would tell you the same thing. And them having an Orthodox Christian Study Center, it probably wouldn't be so bad, but it doesn't seem like they have Orthodox Christians teaching Orthodox beliefs.
Right.
Instead, it's probably Jesuits teaching Orthodox beliefs. And we it's not like that's an uncommon thing, because in the Middle East, what they'll have is Uniates, Greek Catholics, and they'll look exactly the same as Orthodox, except they commemorate the Pope, so they're Roman Catholic. But it's them who are setting up schools, and they'll say, oh, we're the Orthodox school, but in reality, it's Roman Catholic teachers teaching Orthodoxy, and of course, they're going to get everything wrong. So it's probably something similar to that going on. Fordham has kind of just been the main attraction of those leftists who do want to seek to bring down Orthodoxy, who want to change it. Maybe they really do love God, but they are still trying to change Orthodoxy, and that's something that's incorrect about what they're doing. And because they're so institutionalized, it can often seem as though leftists have such a big platform when in reality they don't.
Right.
I know Fordham has gotten a lot of pushback from Orthodox priests, bishops, who talk about how they're clearly trying to subvert Orthodoxy. But these people, they're not seeking, it's not looking like they're seeking to repent. It's just looking like they want their ideas to be the first and foremost. And we traditionalists, we quote unquote racist, evil people, young people, we are standing in the way of that because we have a lot of outreach on social media and both in real life. So it seems threatening to them. A Fordhamite is one who associates with them. They don't have to go to Fordham. They don't have to be a professor at Fordham. But some websites like Public Orthodoxy, or what is it called, Orthodoxy in Dialogue, these are the institutionalized groups. These are the leftists who definitely associate with this university, and they try to set their political ideas as the forefront of what Orthodoxy believes, and they would like it's just pride, them trying to be on top, quote unquote, in Orthodoxy. But none of what they do is representative of what Orthodoxy believes or what Orthodoxy stands for.
Yeah, and from what I know about them, they're not huge fans of debating. It's just writing these screeds, and then, they get the golf clap from all their followers, which, okay, yeah, sure, there are people on the right who maybe don't want to debate either, but that's typically what I would say is like an elitist trait. And you see that within these people who, have religious studies degrees, and they have a master's of divinity, and they're experts on this and that, and it's but they're scared of conversation. I find it strange. And then Sarah Riccardi Swartz, back to her, she I'm going to link to this because it's this little like 53-second gaslit video talking about you. She just discovered you, I guess, and she said, you are not only a threat to democracy, sir, but you are a threat to Orthodoxy and the authority of the church. I mean, if that's not like mind-blowing, this person who literally, that's her bread and butter, is subverting the authority of the church. And then she, of course, says, you're a young man from the American South. That's naughty. And then again, radicalized, which is code word for converting people to Orthodoxy. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. But she is not popular. You get way more tweets and likes and stuff, but she has power within that sphere. What is she talking about here? A, does she know you're Black? And B, what do you think the far right is, and how does she get it wrong?
Well, I think it's clear that she does know I'm Black. That's why she said he's a young man from the American South, because Southerners are racist. But if she mentioned that I was Black, then it would tear apart that narrative.
Good
Um,
point.
I think if we so-called right wingers, it's like they said, we're a threat to democracy. I think it's pretty clear a lot of us are not exactly big fans of
Right.
democracy just as an ideology. But they think democracy is a virtue. They think believing in democracy is a good thing, or they think that it's better for some abstract idea of theirs, such as human rights, ethics, blah blah blah, stuff that doesn't have any concrete foundation. So they try to associate these abstract ideas, human rights, with democracy, with orthodoxy. So if in their minds orthodoxy is pro-democracy, then if we're a threat to democracy, then we must also be a threat to orthodoxy as well.
Right.
Of course, none of that is true. I'm sure I could write an entire dissertation about how orthodoxy is in favor of monarchy, as is the historical, as has been the historical example. But that's not really the main thing. The main thing is that their unnecessary association of orthodoxy with abstract humanist ideas. They're humanists. They don't have their origins in the church fathers. They don't have their origins in the Bible, the councils. It's their hypothesizing. It's their academic theology. They don't want to spend so much time focusing on historically what orthodoxy has taught and proclaimed. They want their ideas to be first.
Yep.
So of course we are a threat to that, because we do preach academic theology is a problem, because you're not letting revelation, you're not letting patristic tradition be at the forefront of your theology, the final conclusion. They come up with their own conclusions based off their own musings, and patristic orthodoxy gets to get into the way of that.
Yeah, and you stick to the basics, the foundations, and you are very unrattled by them, which is why I think you're probably going to be in their crosshairs for a little bit, but I wouldn't worry too much about it, because right, God's in control, as you know. But I think that's one of the things too, that when they talk about the Orthosphere and Ortho Bros, and it's patriarchal and all this kind of stuff, it's because often, not always, but that is what you just said was beautiful and correct and very 100% truth. And I think that people that are not very concerned about truth, but inventing truth as they go along, they can't take that, and so that is why they don't debate and why they just tear people down. So man, I just say keep on doing what you're doing. Now, there is something within the Orthosphere, which is just Orthodox people online talking about Orthodox things, where I feel as if there is a kind of a bias toward converts. A, are you a convert? And B, do you think that cradles kind of have an elite view sometimes, that they can say things, but if you're a convert, we don't really care what you think?
Yes, I am a convert. I converted about 3 years ago. I was baptized 2 years ago. I was and I was culturally Christian, raised my whole life, but there was a time where there was a lot of bad things happening to me at the same time. I didn't know how to explain it. I blamed God. Eventually, I tried to find proof that God wasn't real. But in reality, what I ended up with was finding proof that God was indeed real. And so, because I'm a very analytical person, I was like, well, there's no explanation. I have to become Christian now. And after concluding that Christianity is true, the logical next step for me was trying to find out the most true version of Christianity. And I basically kind of made the fast track to saying it was either going to be Orthodoxy or Roman Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to basically discern between those two. And after about 4 months, specifically researching those, I came to the conclusion that Orthodoxy was more unchanging. Orthodoxy stuck to its beliefs from the first century more. And if Roman Catholicism changed and truth can't change, then they must not have the truth. That was my mindset, my reasoning. Of course, after the 3 years that I've been with the Orthodox Church, I've come to more conclusions, proving orthodoxy and disproving other religions, but that's just my personal journey. I'm willing to talk to anyone about that. And of course, with regards to converts and cradles, I think what you said is kind of right online. There is kind of this bias towards converts because a lot of us online are converts. We've gotten to Orthodoxy through the online community, or maybe that was the first time we heard of it. So if we were already active online and then we became Orthodox, well, then Orthodoxy gets integrated into our online living. But if you're a cradle and you grew up Orthodox, that's just your way of life already.
Right.
That's just what you already believe in. So you're not going to specifically integrate that into your online activity. Not a lot of them would do that unless they're just so gung-ho about it. And of course, among cradles, there is a bias against us converts because it is often perceived falsely that it's often perceived that we are trying to change how they live. We're trying to change them. We're trying to change, and if we're trying to change them, then of course in their minds, we're also trying to change Orthodoxy, which isn't true. We're in fact trying to get people more in line with Orthodoxy. So there has been this kind of common fight, this tussle online with cradles and converts, and also in the real world. Cradles and converts, they have different ideas about Orthodoxy because converts think that cradles are not practicing it fully. They're just kind of going with the flow. And cradles think that we converts are, radicals, we're hyper religious.
Zealots.
Zealots, yes, of course. Shoot, my own mom has called me a zealot. It's
yeah, probably mine too.
it is a common struggle. And another thing, you also said that some cradles think that because we're converts we should just shush. We don't know what we're talking about. They've been doing this for a long time, so they know what they're talking about. And all of that is just is first of all a fallacy because just because we're new to the faith, I've seen some people who were only Orthodox for a few months. They know way more than a lot of these who have been Orthodox for years. And of course they can be, thinking they know too much. But the idea that they should just shut up because they're new to the faith, because they're neophytes, because they're not even dry from the baptism yet, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Just because they're young in the faith, it doesn't mean they should shut up. They are right to ask questions. They are right to say you should get in line with the fathers. Here's what the fathers say, or why do you do this? This is not what the fathers say. Those are very reasonable questions. And if we just charitably talk to each other and explained where our difference in mindset is, things will be better for all of us. But even the Apostle Paul says it to Saint Timothy: let no one despise you on account of your age. Someone could literally be 16 years old and they just converted to Orthodoxy. And just because they're gung-ho about the faith, it doesn't mean that they need to shut up. people ought to just be charitable to one another.
Yeah, I agree. And the word balance is one that I love in Orthodoxy, because it's almost the answer to every conundrum you get in. It's a balance. And so I think you had written something recently about how many saints were laity. They were not clergy, right? Many desert fathers and mothers were, not ordinated. Do we need ordinated people? Do we need clergy? Of course, right? But they need us. It is part of the structure of Orthodoxy that I find so beautiful, that we all depend on each other. And there's no one exact, like, right way to evangelize to. So for example, you're big on Twitter, right? That is how you reach a lot of people. It may not be a replacement for face-to-face conversation, but like you said, it's a good start. My husband is the one who discovered Orthodoxy for us when we were completely disillusioned with Protestantism. Well, I mean, he didn't know anybody Protestant, so he starts typing away and finds online stuff, right? So I see it as just a tool, but it's a balance. Do you ever, I don't know, what do you think about people who say, oh, social media, it's just this deep, dark place, the orthosphere is so negative, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, how do you see it, evangelistically?
Yeah, I of course I did start off online. I don't really have, such a big, m- kind of marketplace in order to evangelize Orthodoxy. I mean, of course I can go to my school, but a lot of people in real life just aren't. Uh, a lot of people at these secular institutions are not interested in religion. And if you're online, you can cast a wide net.
Yeah.
So if someone is interested, but they're not like within, 100 miles of you, they have a way of getting in contact with you. They can ask you questions about the faith, or they can learn about the faith whereas they otherwise would not have, because there's not a lot of books at libraries about this. It's not something that's just going to catch your eye. Sometimes you've actually got to go out and go to people. So that's what I've been trying to use the internet to do. A lot of people, I think, erroneously say, "Oh, the online world is such bad place. The online community is so bad. We're all so mean. Please just go to church to find a real community." And it's like, yes, of course you should go find a real community. Of course you should go to your own parish. I don't think anyone is not going to a parish and they're just purely online about their orthodoxy. That's not what's happening. So I
Right.
think these people are kind of preaching to the choir. They're talking about things that everyone already agrees with. But they shouldn't condemn online orthodoxy, because this is a very good place to help people uh, get to know about the faith, get in line with the faith if they've fallen out, um, tell people about it that who may have not known about it, and it can be a good support structure for people fresh in the faith who are perhaps more anxious and it's hard for them to get into their own parish community. It's the internet is a tool. It's not a automatically evil place. I believe it was Patriarch Kirill who said, if we do not, or maybe it was Patriarch Alexei, if we do not use the internet, then the devil will use the internet.
Yep.
We have a position here, helping out people, doing what we can to benefit Orthodoxy and Orthodox churches.
Right. And despite what the Fordhamites say, Orthodoxy is growing in some regions, particularly the South. But, it's not like Orthodox churches are coming out of our ears. I drive an hour to mine, right? So, it's this bizarre, mythical, weird thing that people say, oh, we're all Putin worshipers and, Orthodoxy is taking over. Well, we want it to take over, of course, because we're Orthodox. That's what we want. We want there to be more Orthodox and more parishes. But it's bizarre. And so that goes back to like the Andrew Torba thing. I'm with you. I think it is more, they are fearful that people are still resisting the woke narratives and all their changing manifestations, but that, you and many others are just unapologetically traditionally Orthodox. And that just freaks people out who, I guess, specialize in propaganda. Like, why are you not bending, Prime? What's up with you?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is we're toward the end. I want to ask you about your evangelism specifically for, I think it's your Twitter bio that says African Americans must look to Orthodoxy for peace. Oh no, that's your article. Sorry. So you wrote an article that was cross-published by Gab. It's on your Medium site and Ortho Christian. That's called African Americans Must Look to Orthodoxy for Peace in Violent America. On Twitter, one of your little descriptions is make Black people Orthodox again. And on YouTube, I didn't even know you had a YouTube channel. You just say you're Orthodox Black guy. Okay, so I'm like short and sweet. So I appreciate the evangelism in which people tap into Luke 5:6, which is what the Ludwell Orthodox Fellowship does. So I'm looking at the Orthodox Study Bible right now at the notes, and it says, Luke 5:6, the Lord draws people to himself by things that are familiar to them, as he drew the Magi with a star, as he would draw tax collectors by a tax collector. Here he draws the fishermen with fish. So you are targeting your fellow Black brothers and sisters. And how is that going? Why do you say make Black people Orthodox again? Explain to our listeners what that means. But how is that going? Because, I don't know the exact race of every person that comments or follows you, but my guess is it's a lot of white dudes too. So how's it going with targeting Black Americans?
Well, when it comes to the internet, I mean, just as in America's demographics are mostly white, and about 13% African American, you do have a lot of white guys online, and you've got your Black communities as well. I think I've definitely got into more contact with Black Orthodox online communities being formed there. But in all honesty, it's not really a lot being done there because African Americans are not super interested in religion. They're being constantly bombarded with racial politics, ethno-narcissism. They're being propagandized too. So really, I'm trying to battle with what's already institutionalized. I'm trying to battle with everything the media is throwing at them, all the stuff that they're familiar with. However, it has been helpful with some who are already kind of interested in finding the true faith. People who are interested in finding out about Jesus, African Americans who are interested in finding about Jesus. Oftentimes, they end up in my crosshairs. Oftentimes, they end up coming by me because of how prominent I've become, which is a good thing for them. So I've commissioned a lot of icons of Black saints that didn't have any icons before them. I've written articles about Orthodoxy among African Americans. Really, I do what I can, and if fruits bear, then I'm going to collect those fruits.
Yeah.
And as time goes on, you find out what the most effective solution is, most effective thing to do in these situations, and you go from there. Myself, I know that there are missionaries already for all Americans. There are already missionaries for white Americans, missionaries for Mexicans, missionaries among the Arabs, but there's very few missionaries for my people. And if we're just kind of, leaving us in the dust, then none of us are going to convert. So my hope is that I've made a good impression on even one or two, and in hopes that from there, good can come forth.
What do you think of the St. Moses, the Black Fellowship? Do they do a lot of work? I mean, I know they exist, but I don't know what they're up to these days. Are you involved with them? Are you there?
Sorry.
Are you
Yes.
there?
Yes. I know about this St. Moses the Black Fellowship. They have, done good work themselves. I'm in contact with some who are particularly involved with it, such as Father Samuel Davis. He and I correspond a lot, actually.
Good.
I would like to go up to some of their conferences. Um, I've seen good things come from them. I've seen not so good things come from them. But every organization has its fruits and has its flukes.
Yep.
So it's really just about prayer, hoping that
Yep.
they can do what they can to benefit Orthodoxy. And if they really start going off the deep end, then hopefully there's someone there, hopefully maybe myself, maybe
To
someone
catch 'em.
who's conservative I can catch him and bring him back in
Pull
line.
them back. Well, and I'd never known who it's Sam Davis, is that his name? I didn't know who he was, and he was one of the very brave souls, such as yourself, who defended the fellowship when we were getting attacked by the Fordhamites. So yeah, he seems like a good guy. How do you define racism? What's up with this word, and why do we have to hear about it so much? Because there are things that people call racist that I don't think are racist. I mean, how do you define it as an Orthodox Christian Black American?
Well, personally, I mean, I don't think racism is any different from how it was defined in the beginning. If you hate other races, then you're racist. If you think one race is superior in totality than another, or has more value than another, then you're racist. I think those are pretty simplified definitions. Some people would like to expand racism to mean a bunch of other things. I don't think it's racist to prefer the company or association of your own race to others. I don't think it's racist to have, for example, preferences, who you want to have children with. I don't think it's racist to have preferences in that way on the basis of race. Racism it's going to be a problem everywhere, because if it is as I've defined it, then obviously that's not really a good thing. But I don't think it's a particular problem and ill that the Orthodox Church is facing.
Yep. Neither do I.
And speaking of which, I mean, you know that I have a big following on Twitter. I've had plenty of people straight up tell me, yeah, I used to be racist, but then I started interacting with you, or I became Orthodox, or so on, and I was de-radicalized even through Orthodoxy.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, racism is kind of this mythologized evil in America, because while of course it is bad, it's not the big problem that our country is going to fall apart at the whims of.
I agree. Absolutely. And that people act like it is the one and only sin. There
Yeah.
is. And there would be some people who would even, I mean, there's some people who would even debate whether it is a sin, but I think hating somebody that you don't know is just, yeah, that's pretty sinful. That's not a nice thing to do. But beyond that, yeah, I just don't think it's the biggest fish we're needing to fry here. So yeah, thank you for defining that. So I'm a gal, as you can see, and sometimes I like to poke and prod at the left wingers who are attacking me and call them misogynist, or that they're a tool of the patriarchy, because, I have, lady plumbing. So, well, you could play the race card, and I don't think you ever do that. Have you ever? And do you think that's fruitful or fruitless, or is it just like, well, you don't even think about it?
Yeah, no, I really don't like to try to do that, because it's overplayed in the first part. In the first place, that was my main thing against it, is that it's overplayed. And then in the second part is just that I don't think it's beneficial. I don't think it's fruitful. I don't think anyone's gaining anything because I say, "Oh, are you saying that because I'm Black?" Because I don't need to ask that. Some people will straight up tell me, I'm saying this because you're Black. Like, I don't need to search their hearts to find out why they're saying something to me. Eventually they're going to reveal it themselves.
Yeah.
But I don't really think too much on my race, because if I'm trying to do anything, I'm trying to do it because it's the Orthodox faith. I'm trying to spread Orthodoxy. I don't need to be Black to spread Orthodoxy. I don't need to focus on the fact that, oh yes, I'm Black, therefore, that none of that matters to me. I only really bring it up in as much as other people bring it up. I mean, for example, even during this very conversation, it wasn't a topic of discussion until you asked it to
Yeah.
me. Is I am my race. I can't change what I am. I mean, the Bible even says a leopard cannot change its spots. But something that I can change is the status of my soul, my repentance. That's something that I can affect. So why focus on things that I can't change so much? So I don't play that card. If I do play that card, it's typically as a joke.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, me
sometimes
too.
sometimes they'll reply back, yeah, totally, it is because it's like that.
Right.
It's just me and my buddies just joking around, but I don't play that card.
Yeah, like being a tool of the patriarchy. Obviously, I don't care about that because I'm talking with Patriarch Prime. So it's
So true.
fun to throw their bizarre, I don't know, rules back at them or whatever. So all I can say is I think you're wonderful. I don't know how old you are, but you look like a very young man, but you seem quite mature beyond your years. And I just say, keep doing what you're doing. And I just think you're a bright spot in the orthosphere, and I hope that you aren't too troubled about the possible doxing and the SPLC stuff, because there's some really good people on the SPLC hate list. So if you ever get put on there, you may be among good company.
Yeah.
Any parting words that you want the masses to know about before we say goodbye?
Please become Orthodox Christian. If you if anyone would like to learn about Orthodoxy, if anyone is curious about any of my views, you can DM me at Patriarch Prime. I think the link is going to be in the description.
Yep.
You can always talk to me, and I'll try to respond in charity and in love and in truth.
All right.
But that's all I got.
Well, you're the man, Kaleb. Thank you so much. Christ is risen. God bless you. And thank you so much for coming on my show.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting me. It was nice speaking with you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.